Welcome to the Saturday Morning Nerd Show. I'm Marcus Blake, your host, and joined with me, as always, is the brewing sailor, Mr. Brendan Smith.
Good morning, nerds.
And from the Electric Jellyfish Podcast, Mr. Chad Womack.
Morning, folks.
All right. It's been a few weeks. We got a lot to talk about, a lot of really cool nerd movies that we're going to tell you what we think of them. And then we're going to get a little bit more into gaming and even talk about a little Dungeons and Dragons. So, but before we do that, there's lots of funny things happening. We just want to say to Bob Iger, you stepped in it today. Thank you for the laughs and kicking off that criminal investigation against Disney. I think you should have an entire show on Disney Plus about how you're going to fucking get yourself out of that one. So probably
Go get She-Hulk to do it.
You know, if they do get a season 2 of She-Hulk, they really should break the fourth wall and make a joke about that.
Telling you.
Just for the hell of it. Speaking of Disney Plus, just because we haven't commented on it yet, we haven't been around, and it's not really this week's Sign of the Apocalypse because we're not shocked at all, but Willow will not be coming back for another season on Disney Plus.
Even though season 2 is written, but
yeah, I love the showrunner. Well, it's not canceled to me. I wrote it. That doesn't mean anything.
Well, in that
like
case,
there are writers everywhere who have written millions of stories that will never be picked up.
For every writer out there, while I have published 14 books, I've really written 100. Oh my God.
Yeah, and Star Wars is going to release 10 movies in the next couple of years.
Yes, they're all legit. I'm not really sad about Willow not coming back for season 2 because it was just I don't know what was more excruciating to watch that season or Rings of Power.
Rings of Power.
Probably.
Yeah, but just
I could at least watch and finish Willow. I couldn't even get halfway through Rings of Power.
I honestly I didn't even start Willow because I saw the trailer and that was enough. But and then every review I've read pretty much said what I thought was going to happen. So
when I redid the trailer to the Beverly Hills 90210 theme song, that put a lot more into perspective about what kind of show this was going to be.
And it's just like, but I will agree that Rings of Power more because there's obviously a much bigger connection to Lord of the Rings than there is to Willow. Willow is a nice little cult film that was one of Ron Howard's firsts, and it was very charming. And let's be honest, the story was, you could wade across that kiddie pool. It's not the deepest thing in the world, but that's okay. It was fun and enjoyable, and it's a delightful little movie. But that's what it is, a delightful little movie. It's not one of the biggest IPs in the world and one of the best-selling novels of all time that's only been outsold by Agatha Christie and God.
Right.
So,
yeah, nothing about Willow screamed franchise it.
No, and you have, and the biggest problem is if you don't have Val Kilmer, you don't have Matt Mardigan.
Right.
You had a voice, not his, unfortunately, it was his son Jack, but it was like it was like the CW decided to remake Willow and bring all the characters back in some Dawson's Creek fantasy bullshit, and
it really did. And I really loved the plastic arrows with plastic fletching on the medieval fantasy show.
Right,
that's great. Like, you're Disney. Your market cap is somewhere around $250 billion. And you can't get some wooden arrows with real fletching. You just sent some intern down to Dick's Sporting Goods and grabbed the first set of arrows you found.
Dick's Sporting Goods? How about the Walmart toy department?
Hey, whatever.
Oh, well.
If the shoe fits.
Another casualty of Disney Plus of what we don't care about and whatnot. But anyway.
Look, put it this way. This is how bad Willow was. It killed any non-Star Wars Disney project on Disney Plus because they came out and basically said Lucasfilm is now going to focus solely on Star Wars after Indiana Jones. So no Indiana Jones TV show, no
Yeah, no
Willow
Raven.
season 2, nothing. Lucasfilm has got to get its Star Wars house in order before they can do anything else.
Well, let's face it. Did any of us really want to see Ravenwood?
Honestly, I don't even know what the hell it is, but no, probably not.
I just,
You know what? I won't make that judgment until I see the movie. I don't have high expectations about the movie, but I like.
Oh, was it supposed to be about Marion?
about her dad, about Abner.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh,
I'd rather see the Forrestal story, to be quite honest with you.
Sorry, I'm getting the characters mixed up. I thought they were doing a series focusing on Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character.
Well, they were supposedly doing that too, but I didn't know there was a Ravenwood movie in the works.
So, yeah.
If you really want to do it right, let's do a continuation of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles.
Yeah.
Let's de-age Sean Patrick Flannery and a little bit, and let's just have some more adventures. Well, the Disney is a whole nother discussion in a couple of weeks once we do our final review of season 3 of The Mandalorian, whatever else the fuck is going on at Disney. But anyway, all right, big movies that are coming out. We're going to start with the Super Mario movie real quick. It is out this week. It's doing great. If you have not seen it, I will say two things. One, don't complain about these characters in cat costumes or anything like that if you've never played the games. And we are talking to some of the critics out there who are making stupid comments.
Grace Randolph.
We were.
Bless you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate you there, Chad.
Yes, always.
Anyway, it's very nostalgic. I did very much enjoy the movie. It made me want to go back and play the games again, which I played after I got home from the screening. You will definitely, if you've played all the games, you'll definitely be able to see all the different levels from each of the games throughout the movie. The voice cast was pretty good. Chris Pratt, you can't do a Brooklyn Italian accent, but that's okay. Just stick with sounding like Andy from the Parks and Recreation, and you'll be fine. But I think the big part of them who kind of stole that movie was Jack Black voicing Bowser, especially with him singing, making up songs like it's Tenacious D as Bowser singing to Peaches. So, for me, it's one of those movies that while you're not going to get a really engaging story, because what else is there? It's you're saving the princess in Mushroom World.
I'm sorry, I just got a vision of Bowser singing Her Gently to Princess Peach.
I just wanted to put that image in your head.
Thank you, appreciate that. I needed that chuckle. That was great.
So, but it's a fun movie to watch with your kids. Again, you'll want to go back and play the games with your kids because it has all the nostalgia for those of us who grew up with the games versus people, the kids who are getting interested in these characters who are 40 years old. So
I tell you, this movie's got a chance to. If you look, so last year Illumination came out with Minions: Rise of Gru, and that made $940 million on a budget of $90 million. And this might be a little bit bigger budget because of you've got Chris Pratt, you've got Jack Black in it. There's a lot of voice talent in it. So let's say it's $120 million, right? It's gonna make a profit its first weekend, and that's just stupid because it's gonna probably come in around 330 to 350 million worldwide on its first weekend. This legit has a chance to make $1 to $1.5 billion as an animated movie, and that's just absolutely insane. Because Minions: Rise of Gru, while Minions has been around for a while, and Gru has been around for a while with Despicable Me, Mario has been around for nearly 40 years.
Right.
There are 3 generations. You've got fathers and mothers taking daughters and sons who have played different versions of the game and the same versions of the game together, that are going to these movies. You've got, 10-year-olds with their 30, 40-year-old parents who played different versions. You've got 20 to 30-year-olds who, played on GameCube and, the Wii, who are going to single professionals who are going to go. This is such a multi-generational property that it's like Star Wars before Kathleen Kennedy got a hold of it, actually. And it has a chance to just make a colossal amount of money. And everybody from Illumination to Universal, like, they're all salivating over this, because if it makes $1 billion, what's going to happen almost immediately after. So we got this Zelda movie coming. Jesus, you're going to have an NCU. You're going to have a Nintendo Cinematic Universe, and the Nintendo world going in at Universal is easily. I mean, it's not even done yet, and it's already outpacing Galaxy's Edge at Disney World. So I mean, just the money that Universal and Nintendo are going to make together is just a prodigiously obscene amount of money. As long as they don't screw it up, Kathleen Kennedy.
Well, all I'm saying,
and I don't think they will, but we'll see. You never know.
Look, I mean, there isn't much of a story that you can really write from this game. It's not. I mean, although I will admit the SNL skit with Pedro Pascal.
Oh my God!
I would totally watch that.
Yeah, so would I.
Give that to me.
Yeah.
But it's fun. Now, I will probably never be able to play Donkey Kong ever again without hearing Seth Rogen's voice. So thank you for that movie. But I'm not complaining. I enjoyed it for what it is. And if you grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and you're wondering, is this better than the last one? Yes. It just absolutely, yes, it is.
But when the bar is that far off the ground, it's not exactly a high bar to clear.
Yeah, you really could like trip over that bar. So to give you an idea, I mean, right now it's rocking an 8.7 user score on Metacritic. And let's see, what is it on Rotten? I know Rotten Tomatoes was in the 90s. Let's see where it is right now. It is sitting at 96% audience score.
Wow.
So, and it got its in Cinema Score, it got an A. So, I mean, that's everywhere saying this is a good movie.
Yeah, I'm just saying from a critic standpoint. I mean, we're not going to break it down like, well, the story was so engaging, and
there's not enough meat on that bone, really.
No, it's just a fun movie that.
Yeah.
I looked at it as, and Alex Moore and I, we were talking about, we recognize that level from this game, and it works as a fun movie on all levels. And again, my favorite part is Jack Black voicing Bowser. I think that, to me, that was the perfect casting, because you made him funny. I laugh, and it's one of those things that I know I'm going to watch more than once, and I'm not going to get tired of it. So kudos to them. I mean, Alex and I both gave it the same score, but we're also critics, so it's like, no, this is not an 8 or a 9. It's not the most awesome gaming movie ever. It's certainly one of the better ones, but
I think a 7 is a fair score. I mean,
that's what we did.
Yeah, like 7, just saying, hey, that's a good movie. We're not saying it's all life altering, but it's good. It doesn't screw anything up, and it's entertaining.
But there's a flip side, and this goes into the other Nintendo movie that is really fucking good, that had a very engaging story, and that was Tetris on Apple Plus.
Mm-hmm.
With Taron Egerton. And if you don't even know the story about how they had to get the rights from Russia at the end of the Cold War.
Now, keep in mind, the movie does exaggerate it a little bit for entertainment value.
Oh, obviously.
But
yeah.
But it's not that far off. Like it's off. It's but it's the base idea is there. They just they Spinal Tap it up to 11 for shits and giggles.
There wasn't any car chases running from the KGB in the Red Square. They're just real life.
But I'm sorry, when that happened and they go to the top down perspective and it basically becomes Spy Hunter, I was like, holy shit, this is just too cool for words. It was Bourne-esque, Bond-esque in all the best possible ways. Were they playing it up? Yeah, of course they were. But it was.
You get a lot of the history of what made what made Tetris so popular outside of Russia. But you also get the backstory of, all of these computer geeks, the guy who created it, sharing it. You know what? I'll put it into a perspective. Our end of the year article was about Space War, the very first video game, and how it was created on an MIT mainframe. And back in the early 60s, and all you did was transfer it from one mainframe at a university to another. And in 2 years, it ended up at Stanford. And Noah Bushnell, who created Atari, that's how he discovered it. So playing Tetris was very much like that, a government property in Russia. But how they ported it over didn't really have the rights. They were trying to sell it at a trade show. Again, didn't really have the rights. The contract was wrong. And Taron Egerton's character goes in and is looking at this contract. And it's like, well, no, you can't do this. And he didn't really have it. And, he's trying to make cartridges for Nintendo. It's just the wild story of having to get the rights from the Russian government.
Insanity. It's absolute insanity.
Yeah, and really, to me, the two best scenes is when Taron Egerton's character is going over the contract, and they've got all three parties separated,
and they just keep going back and forth.
Right. And then when he goes over to dinner and they're playing it around on the home computer, and it's his character that comes up with, what if you had multiple blocks disappear? And they write the code right then and there.
That was cool. Yeah, that was cool. That was the light bulb moment.
I don't think that really happened, but it's a cool moment of how they connected, because the guy who created it and Taron Egerton's character did actually partner up and form the Tetris company.
From the Tetris Corporation, yeah.
Who really could come to America. But this movie is for the gamers that spent countless hours playing Tetris on the Game Boy. And that was the brilliance too, is how they packaged it with the Game Boy.
And how he sold them on the idea of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But then again, it's the crazy story of ingenuity. I mean, how you get this thing that is going to be a hit and change society. The fall of a government. You get to see Gorbachev, and the hot blonde who, you're like, she can't really just be that sweet, innocent interpreter. Of course she's KGB.
Of course she's KGB, yeah. Who didn't see that one coming.
Right. So that's my take on it. I mean, it's just a fun adventure. Chad, your thoughts?
Loved it. I loved everything about it. And the weird thing is, I watched this film a couple of nights after watching another gaming film, Pinball: The Man Who Saved the Game. And if you haven't watched that yet, I highly recommend that. It's like a completely different side of the coin of the gaming industry. But I swear, Taron Egerton keeps on impressing me. That's one of the best American accents I've heard a British actor ever put out there.
Oh God, yeah.
I kept forgetting he was British. I was like, this kid's really good.
Also, incredibly nice. Getting a chance to interview him for Eddie the Eagle was a highlight. Right.
Yeah.
So,
but this film was an unexpected delight. I was not expecting what we got. This really blew me away.
Apple Plus really does have good movies. They throw out a lot of kind of surprises. I mean, Sharper wasn't as good as some. But like The Banker, about the first black bankers with Samuel L. Jackson, who kind of got shafted by racist, white people. They had to have a front man who was white to get through the gate. That was pretty good. But of course, they have incredible series too. They've been able to do a lot with some, sci-fi. First one to actually have a pretty decent adaptation of Isaac Asimov's Foundation, and of course Ted Lasso. So, these movies that they keep coming out, and Greyhound as a Navy movie with Tom Hanks.
Yes,
I was very surprised by that.
That movie will give your subwoofer a workout.
Exactly.
It will need a cigarette and a wet towel when it's done.
Yeah, Actually, and I think we all appreciate that movie more hearing how it got made because our good friend James Anderson, who got out of the Air Force not too long before they made, got to work with Dale Dyan on that film. So, but yeah, Tetris. If you don't know the story, I mean, obviously go watch the documentary by the gaming historian. You can get that on YouTube. But
Speaking,
yeah,
talking about by the way, talking about a movie legend that most people have never heard of, Dale Dye. Like if you're into military movies or you were in the military, you know who Dale Dye is. Dale Dye is a retired Marine captain who served in Vietnam, and he has worked on every big and small military movie that you can think of. He's been in everything from Under Siege to Saving Private Ryan to now Greyhound. And his list of accolades and movies is just incredible. And he
was essential in getting Platoon made.
Yeah,
without him, I don't think Platoon ever gets off the ground.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if you are serious about making a military movie, you go see. Like, put it this way: if you want to make a modern or even now old time Western, you go get what's his name, Taylor Sheridan. Taylor Sheridan. If you're serious about making a military movie, you go get Dale Dye.
Yeah.
Right.
If you guys don't know who he is, look him up. He is a fascinating dude.
You have already failed right out of the gate if you don't have somebody from his company. Now, I mean, I don't know how much direct involvement he had with Lone Survivor, the Navy SEAL story, but the fact that you had Luttrell,
Marcus Luttrell.
Thank you. I was about to say Sprewell. I'm like, nope.
You were about to say Sprewell.
That's a basketball player.
That's Luttrell Sprewell. That's like a Wheel of Fortune before and after puzzle. Marcus Luttrell Sprewell.
But I think Marcus Luttrell there actually training them in tactics and
yeah.
If you don't do those things and you're just like, yeah, we're just gonna wing it and whatever, it's like, no, that's it because
all the military guys are going to be sitting in the audience looking like a dog with a high-pitched whistle going.
Look, we know that Top Gun pilots kind of look at Top Gun like, yeah, it's a little over the top, and we work as a team and blah blah blah. But even they can admit that's like,
still a hell of a lot of fun,
right? So, but yeah, Tetris, great. I think I gave it an 8. I mean, I like documentaries more to tell the story, but I had so much fun with that movie that it was definitely an 8 out of 10 for me, and definitely worth watching. All right, big movies. We're going to talk about John Wick 4.
Yes, we do.
First of all, before we get started, very ominous way to get started with that movie. Cannot believe that Lance Reddick is gone. Especially how they send off his character in the movie. It's just like, come on.
Although I did, I did love the interaction between him and Winston right before it happened.
Yeah.
Where Winston, is reminiscing about the person who looked death in the eye and just said, such as, c'est la vie, such as life. And, Winston tells him, you don't have to go in there with me. And he just turns back to him and says, such as life, sir. And it was just a great, and I love Lance Reddick. That dude, I mean, I think, he one role he really missed his calling on, and it kind of shown in the little, or he should have had it, and it kind of shown in that little short where he was doing the Toys R Me. If anybody who hasn't seen that short, please go do yourself a favor and watch it. You're gonna laugh your ass off. But he could have been an amazing Marine Corps drill instructor in some type of movie. Like he just has the ability to look through you, and that commanding voice and presence. I first really started. I know a lot of people got introduced to him because of not Oz, but although he was in that too, but The Wire. But where I first really saw him was on Fringe as Broyles, and then of course you know how much I gush about Bosch, and he was such a big part of that show. So yeah, it was really I saw it coming. Like They don't super telegraph it, but they strongly hint. And
Well, I mean,
when it,
you kind of knew what was going to happen with the character. It's just after you see that and then that happens, in real, it's like,
I tell you what though, it made Bill Skarsgård real easy to hate. What, like and look, Bill Skarsgård, I love you. You're a phenomenal actor. I don't think maybe they gave you enough meat on the bone with that role. That's probably my one nitpick about it is the Marquis, I thought was kind of a weak villain. But um, Bill Skarsgård, you're a great actor. I'm also going to look at you as the guy that shot Lance Reddick the week he died for the rest of your life.
I heard some story that he's like gotten tweets out. It's like, dude, he didn't really kill him.
Yeah. It's like I'm gonna do it tongue in cheek, but I'm gonna give a shit about it for the rest of your life.
Right. Yeah.
I don't actually blame you.
What I have been impressed with
kind of
those who have seen the movie and they talk about the scene of what you would put on his tombstone. He was my friend. Is the tweets going out after he died about he was our friend, and there's always people that we would love to interview in this industry. I mean, of course, Mark Hamill's at the top of our list because it's Mark Hamill and we love everything he does. But Lance Reddick is another one that's kind of at the top of. I feel like we could just all have a beer and talk for hours between gaming and filming and just this and that. And I think that's how a lot of people kind of felt. Is
maybe this is just my impression, but with him, I think it would be a Scotch. I don't know. I just get that impression. Like it would be. It's just the way he carried himself, and the way he talked, and the way he acted. I just think the conversation would call for something. And this is coming from a guy who brews beer for a living and loves beer in all its forms. I just think it called for something a little bit more refined.
Well, I do want to comment too that obviously nobody knows the day they are going to die and everything, but when it comes to the last post on a social media account, sitting there on the couch relaxing with a gaming controller and your dog curled up next to you, man's best friend, that being your last post and something about this is the life or whatever, you can't get much better than that. So but anyway, getting back to John Wick 4, I did love the movie. I know it sounds like I nitpicked and whatever. It's hard to sit there for 3 hours. And it's a 3-hour movie. It's like they put 2 movies in one. It's like, we don't know if we're going to get John Wick 5, so we better make up for it and put 2 movies in one and really go all out. And it's hard for me to sit there without hippie grandma's brownies or whatever. At least I had the luxury of that kicking in halfway when we had to sit there and watch Avatar. So, but as for the movie itself, I mean, they go all out with the action and more of the lore, and the hotel in Tokyo was probably my favorite of all the scenes. I mean, Donnie Yen. Who honestly hates Donnie Yen in a movie? Is there anybody actually out there complaining about Donnie Yen and anything he does in movies?
How can you?
Well, Hong Kong protesters, but other than that, no.
I don't really care.
But yeah.
Whatever.
And while I understand what they're saying, you're protesting giving China a voice in Hollywood. China already owns Hollywood, so you're a day late and a dollar short with that.
That's something different. I'm talking about his performance in any character.
Oh no, like dude, he's criminally underappreciated in Western cinema. Yeah. Like, come on, up until the last few years, I mean, what has he been in Western cinema? Up until like Rogue One, he had been in Highlander Endgame where he has a really awesome fight with Adrian Paul, and then he was in freaking Blade 2 where they made him mute.
Right.
They made him samurai too. It's like, dude, he's Chinese, not Japanese. Come on.
I know. But I mean, even if you're one of those aficionados that watches, Asian cinema, he's never, except for miscast, like I said, I mean, with Blade 2, I mean, he's never he always maximizes everything with his role, and his characters are great. And I don't know about you, but with the geek in me, there are many scenes in John Wick 4 that I kept whispering to myself, I am one with the Force.
The Force, and the Force is with me. Kind of figured as much.
And I just loved his character too, how he uses a flashbang because he's blind, and it's not going to affect him, and he's like lights out.
Yeah. Here are my chief complaints really about the movie, besides it being too long. At some point, you have to explain to me how John Wick is not the $6 million man and not dead yet from all being thrown around, kicked down 200 steps, multiple times. However, one little line explaining that the suit not only blocks bullets, but it also has plenty of padding, and that's why he's not dead. Until you explain that to me, I was just like, how is he not dead yet? How is he even going to make it to the final duel at the end of the movie? And it was a great fucking scene, and I'm glad he did. And the way they ended it was awesome. But it's like, good God.
Hey, if Jason can do it, if Michael Myers can do it, then the Baba Yaga can do it. Okay.
Okay.
Here was my biggest surprise of the movie. When I heard they were getting a Japanese British pop star to be in the movie, I'm thinking, well, her performance is gonna suck. But hats off to Rina, and I hope I don't butcher the name, but Sawayama, who actually was really, really good as Akira.
Oh God, yeah.
Also stunning to look at. She's going to have a big career. Because not only is she a very attractive woman, but hey, turns out she can actually act.
No, I was pleasantly surprised by her as well, and it was a great role for her. I don't know what the future holds. I mean, the way they ended it, spoiler alert, John Wick dies, or did he? But yeah, but if they happen to make a fifth and expand the universe, I definitely want to see more of her.
I know Donnie Yen really wants to make movies about Kane. I know that's like he's already come out and said he's like, yeah, I want to make movies about Kane before we get to John Wick and after, so don't be surprised if they greenlight a Kane project. And I know they're already doing I think they're doing a show called The Continental based on the hotel, and so that could be interesting to see. First of all, are they going to set it at the New York Continental, or are they going to set it somewhere else? So that'll be interesting to see. But also, I think they're going to set it in the 70s, which I think could be really interesting.
God! Think about the music.
Oh yeah, I think that, and like if you got somebody like a Michael Fassbender to play a younger Winston, or somebody of that nature, or even we always go back to this guy because we want him to be the next or one of the people we'd like to be the next Bond, but the young man who played Rob Stark,
Richard Madden.
Although
he may kind of be out of the running, or maybe he's doing his warm up. We do have screeners for the Citadel, which is coming out in a few weeks, and
and that does look fantastic. I saw the trailer for that.
2 episodes. I can't. We are under an embargo, so I can't speak too much about it. I am definitely enjoying it, and the more he does, the more I am seeing him as James Bond. So I will say that.
And we've all said that for years now. Also, if you finally are going to do a Highlander remake, maybe a Scotsman who knows how to swing a sword. Just saying.
But that would definitely be good. One of my favorite things about John Wick, though, is I love how the Eiffel Tower is like kind of like the main office, or the switchboard, and it's all this very retro feel to it. With their equipment that can't be tracked. I agree with you about Bill Skarsgård. I mean, he was great in it, and you automatically start out hating the Marquis. He's like a whiny little bitch that I don't want to play fair with anybody. Somebody pissed me off, and I want to control everything. And you just, from the moment that movie starts, you're rooting for him to die.
Also he's a pair of funky sunglasses away from being Liberace in a morning jacket.
No. He's a pair of sunglasses away from being Sam Rockwell in the Charlie Angels movie with dancing,
or even Iron Man 2. But yeah, so.
And I'm not making fun of Sam Rockwell because you, as far as I'm concerned, you can do anything you want. I love it.
And I thought really like in the first half of the movie, I thought he was an okay villain. Obviously they set him up by shooting Corone. Spoilers. We've kind of already given that away.
Right.
But and then making Mr. Nobody pull his hand through the knife. And I was like, okay, we got a real sinister villain here. But then he just takes the left turn to Bitchville in the second act, and he is just sending other people to do his work, and
I know.
And then he wants to take credit for Kane's work, and that we'll leave that because we don't want to get into spoilers. But so it was really weird. Just the writing, it just felt like his character took a really weird turn in the second act, and maybe that's just me. But
and you didn't need to do that. We already hated him from the very beginning,
right?
I mean, it's like you wanted us to hate his character more.
Then again, they didn't know Lance Reddick was going to die the week before the movie came out either.
That's
true. I mean, that just amplified that. So
besides John Wick, can we just admit that the other best character was the dog? I mean, I love the fact that John Wick gets him in the duel, but I would have also been very satisfied if the dog just jumps out of nowhere, bites his balls off, and then bites him.
This is on his face like he did the other guy.
Yeah, I know.
That was fantastic.
So I have a confession. I had never really watched the John Wick movies. I had seen the first one, but I had never gotten around to watching like 2 or 3 over the years. And I sat down and finally watched them both over the weekend before we did our press screening, just so I would be fully familiar. And I'm like, I am a huge fan of this universe. Don't get me wrong. But I think that was also kind of my problem of, oh my God, you just made a 3-hour movie, and now after I just watched these other 2, it's like I can't take all the killing. So I'm waiting. I want to take a little bit of a break, and then I want to go do it again. But Keanu Reeves is just amazing. I mean,
and the fact that he can actually do all the tactical shooting that he does. I mean, you can go on YouTube and see his training videos. I've seen SEALs and Rangers and Delta guys on YouTube break it down and go, yeah, dude can shoot.
No. What you should do is you should do 2 videos side by side on YouTube. The beginning of Point Break, where he's going through the course, John Wick beginner 101, and then move forward.
Before he was the Baba Yaga.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, the amount of training they go through for all of the amount of stunts and everything, and even Charlize Theron commented, because it was when she did Atomic Blonde, because it was the same trainers and everything. Is like how much physicality you have to do that. And it's like the dude is, he's approaching 60 here. Okay, so it's. But hey, if Harrison Ford can still run around and do a lot of his own stunts, or Tom Cruise, which,
I'll give you Cruise. I'll give you Keanu, and I'll give you Donnie Yen. But the first thing that happened when they had Harrison Ford do a stunt on a moving train was he broke his shoulder and he was out of filming for 3 months. Mm-hmm. So you don't do stunts with 80-year-olds, folks. Okay, Disney, come on.
Yeah, you might be a little too old to do your own stunts. Now,
freaking real. Like, who thought that was a good idea?
However, you pulling out your gun and walking up to Jerome Flynn and pointing the gun underneath his mouth. Let's get it on. Sure, why not? I'll take him in a good old-fashioned Western shootout.
Absolutely.
And very much looking forward to season 2 of 1923. By the way, we're going to segue real quick. I will comment on that now that you're caught up on it and stuff. And Chad, I hope you're caught up on 1923. But for John Wick, I did give it like an 8. So a 7.
I think that's a fair score.
Yeah, it's a good I had some problems with it, but it was a good, enjoyable movie.
And if I had to rank the series, I would still put John Wick 1 first. I
Oh,
would
God.
put I would put 4 at a close second, and then 2 was third and 3 is fourth. That'd be
Yeah.
my
Kind of how I go down it. All right. So, for all you Yellowstone fans out there, if you have not, and I know a lot of people have not watched the latest prequel, 1923, if you haven't gotten into it, you need to. It doesn't take that long to binge watch the 8 episodes, and you have 2 great stories. What's going on at the ranch, and Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren are fantastic in it. I mean, great fucking casting choice. I think I like her more than Harrison Ford's character.
hard not to like Helen Mirren.
Yeah, she's ruthless. But Spencer's story, falling in love with a countess and trying to make his way back home and everything. Chad, we're not spoiling anything for you. You are caught up, right?
Nope.
Damn
What?
it, Chad.
Damn it, Chad. What have you been doing? You put Fortnite away for a little while.
I tell you what, though. This is going to be a real breakout role for Brandon Sklenar, who plays Spencer. He's. I would not be surprised if he becomes like an action movie guy after this, because
Right.
I mean he really is, and it's kind of a throwback. And I love Taylor Sheridan's writing for this. He plays a character that, while not as flashy with killing like John Wick is, he's that same type of stoic, hunter who he only says something when he has something to say. There isn't a lot of extraneous dialogue that is just there to be filler. So, I think people really gravitate towards that type of hero, and I think he's going to be in a lot of things going.
He doesn't overtalk in scenes.
Yep.
And I love Julia. I'm probably mispronouncing her last name, Sklepper, who played Alexandra, the woman he meets and everything. And you find out in the last episode that she really is a countess, and talk about, a bitch move in the end. It's like, well, technically, yes, you were married at sea. However, we're going to ship you off and she's coming with us. And after you threw the little fucking little mini lord who challenged you, I mean,
and then pulls out a revolver and tries to shoot an unarmed man.
I know. I mean, it's really kind of the best best part of that, the beginning of the scene, is he's trying to explain to the vet, I'm a killer. Do you really want this to happen? It's like, he's not going to win. And it's like, but he's a very good swordsman. Oh, okay. He catches the sword like you would a bayonet, and then basically kicks his ass.
That's the difference between a guy who has taken martial arts and gotten his Kmart black belt versus a guy who's been in mixed martial arts his whole life and doesn't have a black belt,
right,
but will still just beat the crap out of you because he's actually been punched in the mouth before.
Right.
And she, by the way, she's saucy. I like her a lot.
Yes.
I mean, yes, obviously she's very pretty, but her attitude and her spunk and just her mischievous nature, all of that comes through. She does a phenomenal job with the character.
Well,
I really liked them together.
This is what I can't wait about season 2, and you hope that they do end up together, because I feel, with her being sick at sea, they've already pretty much thrown out there that she's already pregnant.
Yeah.
If I want them to, end up together to help run the ranch, to, because you're already thinking, well, are they the ones that have John Dutton's dad? Because he'll be born in the 20s.
Here's my theory on how she comes back. You ready for this? So their main antagonist now is Timothy Dalton, right?
Right.
She's pregnant. They can't do anything about it, but they're pissed at Dutton. So the family does their research and finds out that they have a British ally against the Duttons. And her family shows up in Montana trying to bankroll and help Timothy Dalton's character, and then she ends up escaping and he gets back to him.
Yeah. Well, that'd be interesting, but I mean, with somebody like that too, that comes from money, it's just all I'm going to say is season 2 is going to be off the fucking chain. So let's get that shot. No more drama. I need season 2 of 1923. And Chad, you need to catch up.
Okay.
All right. That's what's going on in theaters. We've got some other movies that we're reviewing over the next couple of weeks that are coming out. In fact, once we're done recording this, I got to go watch a screener. But we want to get into gaming. So 3 things that we want to talk about. First, Resident Evil 4, the remake. Chad, I know you are the huge Resident Evil fan on our staff, and while you have not finished the game, jumping into it, what are your impressions?
It's remarkable. This seems to be like some sort of a renaissance year for them doing remasters or remakes. We kind of got the ball rolling with the Metroid Prime remake on the Switch, and it was an absolute revelation. And we even got a pseudo remaster of GoldenEye on the Switch and on the
Right.
Xbox Live service. Well, not really Xbox Live because you can't play it online on Xbox, but still. And then this hits like a thunderbolt. Yeah, I've been getting every Resident Evil like as quickly as I can as soon as these remakes become available. And as good as 2 was, 3 was equally as good, but somehow I think 4 is better than both of the last 2 combined.
Well, I admit I'm not the huge Resident Evil fan. I didn't get into the series until late, and I never even completed 2 when it first came out, or 3. I don't think I even started 3. I mean, I know the history. I know it's in the kind of the same timeline. I love the remake of 2. I have played it multiple times from both perspectives of Leon and Claire. I think Claire has a little bit of the better story, but it's an amazing game. From the standpoint of, because you really in that game, you think, well, once I finally get to the underground lair and rescue the girl, I'm done. We can just hop a train and everybody's happy. Nope. There's one more big baddie of a monster you got to defeat.
Mm-hmm.
But I finished the other night. I finished the remake of 4. I played the original during the pandemic when we were all sitting at home, and I want to sponsor federal unemployment money, who stocked up my digital game catalog when publishers kept having sales, and I had a lot of fun with it. Loved it. I understand all the reasons why people consider it the best game of the series. So going through it again and seeing some of the differences, this is an amazing game. I can't really say that Village is more repetitive, that it's repetitive compared to Village, because Village came after. But having finished Village, getting more of that gothic creepiness, having to find your way through a village and a castle, and with different characters, to me, that's kind of the best version of a Resident Evil game.
You can clearly see where Village got its inspiration from.
Right. And I think that, with them going back to the horror genre with 7, which I went back and played 7 again within the last 6 months. Because, I mean, that'll take you anywhere between 6 to 10 hours. It's not a huge campaign. But yeah, this 4, incredible. What they did with it. I kept getting lost when I got to the boat part and trying to find everything. And I mean, I've never played a Resident Evil game where I constantly had to stop off and keep buying, medical supplies more than anything else, and resources to keep making bullets and get around all of this stuff. So they did it again. They just did an incredible job. My only chief complaint is I felt like there were so many more harder things to get past until you get to Salazar at the end of the game. I felt like it was a lot easier to take him down compared to other parts of the game. Um, but again, it was just truly amazing. And it's something that I know a lot of people could finish it probably in 10 or 12 hours. It took me 20 because I kept dying in certain spots and not having enough and really having to watch my ammo. And to me, the only way to really get through it is to have two different levels of shotguns and constantly having ammo. But it looks good. I played it on the PS5. I know you're playing it on the Series X. I mean, from how it looks compared to everything else, I mean, do you feel like it's far superior to every other Resident Evil game, even the remakes?
That's a tough call. I mean, it's a beautiful game to look at aesthetically, but I don't know that it's head and shoulders above even Village from a fidelity standpoint. I don't like. I know people are saying that this is the only way to play this game, and right now it kind of is. You can only play it on current gen consoles, if I'm not mistaken.
No, you can get on the other ones. It's just
you can. Okay.
Yeah, the performances aren't going to be as good. You need to play it on the next gen consoles.
Yeah. I don't know how greatly it benefits from the higher gen consoles, but I mean it's a gorgeous game all around, and I mean it's the game where everything kind of turned for Resident Evil. It took everything off of its tank track type control scheme and made it more of a freestanding, free running game,
right?
And it kind of released you from the constraints of what the original control scheme was. Original control system was. It felt more like a shooter than something that was just on rails, which is what Resident Evil 1 and 2 always did kind of feel like, and 3. And 4 just completely rewrote it.
I think they improved that with the remake of 2. Especially
they did. Yeah, they kind of yanked that whole thing, off of its rails and made it more like what we.
Well, you have to, if you keep navigating the police station and going back and forth, and because you'll never get enough ammo to take out every zombie. I mean, half the time you just have to run and escape them.
What I don't understand though is why they haven't remade 0 and 1.
Yeah, and
I don't understand that.
No, I mean, if there's ever a chance to do that, package them together. Have your prequel, have the first game all in one. You can sell it for $60 and it would be worth it.
Yeah.
Get you right into it. There's so much replay value with Resident Evil games, maybe not 5 or 6.
No, I mean, I want to forget those ever happened.
Yeah, I mean, you need to stick with the horror genre. My thing about 5 or 6 is if you ever wanted to do a remake or whatever, just package them together as something that you did, and it's something off the story. Or what you really could have done is just released it as like DLC for the remake of 4. Because while it's you meet the other characters and how they're going to connect to 7 and 8, they're not really. It feels more like DLC content than actual games.
It does.
So, but overall, yeah. Again, I think I still like 2 more, but 4 is right there. I enjoyed 3, but it does feel very, very short.
2 has always been my favorite story.
Yeah. But 4 is just right up there. And I think because of 4, that's also what makes Village such a good game. I was telling Alex, those who didn't have it, I got you guys copies that wanted to play it. And if you haven't played it yet, I don't know why. You love Resident Evil. Come on, get off your high horse here.
Mm-hmm.
Quit dating some of these crazy women that you go out with. Sometimes so stay home and play a video game. But yeah,
because chicks dig that.
Well, sometimes it's a lot easier just to do that and avoid all the stress.
That's true.
The grade that I would give this game, I would definitely give it an 8, maybe a 9. I mean, it is in a lot.
It's right there. It's right there.
It's a perfect remake. And because it's a huge game, once you have to navigate the village part and then get into the castle, and then it takes you away to, the summit, and you're, crossing all the islands and everything. You have very kind of three distinctive parts of this area that you're having to navigate, which are like three different parts of the game. Which
and they also freed you from the constraints of having Ashley be she's not such a grinding, grating, annoying, helpless, useless, dead weight character anymore. Thank God for that.
She is actually a lot better.
Chad, tell us how you really feel.
Oh God. Okay, if you've never played Resident Evil 4, Brendan, but
yeah, I'm not a Resident Evil guy.
But you have played Ocarina of Time, right?
Many years ago, but yes.
Okay, what the hell was that little princess in the whale's mouth freaking character's name? The one that you had to carry around because she wouldn't walk, and every time you put her down, she'd start drifting away. It was right. She was right there. It was that character from Zelda, and then this character, the president's daughter that you're there to rescue in Resident Evil 4. They were about as equally as annoying and irritating, but unfortunately a necessary part of the game that you were just stuck with, that you were just saddled with babysitting this character, and it made you want to just say, screw it, click, I'm done.
Right. She actually helps out a lot more in this version. She is very necessary in a lot of ways, and it doesn't make her so useless.
And she doesn't have a health bar.
Right.
Is what I know. Like, thank God for that.
Well, the whole point, I mean, the biggest thing you have to worry about is people trying to carry her off, and you're having to navigate everything and stuff. But yeah, absolutely loved it. I can't wait to go back and play it again one night, because the Resident Evil games for me are like every few years I'll jump back into it. When I look at games that have great replay value, I mean, this within the last year, I went back and replayed all the Tomb Raider games because I'm a huge Tomb Raider fan. Replayed The Last of Us during the series, and I'm finally on to The Last of Us 2. But I feel like, you get to a point in your life like, you know what, I really want a good horror adventure and all that, and that's what it offers. Now, I wish that they would do another game where you have two different perspectives and you can play the two different storylines. So what I will say with this, if you're going to do another remake, fine. 5 and 6, if you want to do it, make it DLC content. That's all about it, what it's worth. But like Chad and I were talking about, make 0 and the first Resident Evil game is one thing. Hell, and if you want DLC content, do Codename Veronica.
Yeah, you got to do that eventually.
Yeah. But then just continue the story. And I'm very interested in the way they ended with Village. I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with that and then where they carry on the series. So, but if there's one thing that you've got to do, stick with the horror genre. That's what makes Resident Evil work. So
don't make it Die Hard in the city like you did with 6, especially. That was God.
We want to be Call of Duty.
No, let Call of Duty be Call of Duty.
Speaking of gaming, and Chad, I will definitely love to know your perspective once you finally get to the end. Hogwarts Legacy. I know I still haven't completely done everything. I know you've gotten a long way into it. Are you completely finished with the game, Brendan?
I have not. I'm about halfway through it. Erin has almost 100%ed the damn thing.
I know she's done the main storyline and she went off to do side quests.
Yeah, and she's also finished the school year now as well. So she's finished the full kind of story, not just the main storyline. Okay. But yeah, now she's just going on the completionist route. I think the only thing she doesn't plan on doing is, because in order to 100% the game, you actually have to play it as a member of all 4 houses.
Jeez.
Okay. And because there's a trophy for doing that. And it's the rarest trophy, because just who's going to play through it 4 times, So, especially because there's really only one quest that differentiates the playthrough of the houses. That's one thing. Like if they get more money for the sequel and they do a bigger and better sequel, I would like to see, in addition to the main storyline, have a house storyline so that there is more replayability there. I think that all of the side quest stuff and all of the exploration is great, but if you don't have something different, a different reason to play those other houses, nobody's going to do those. I mean, unless you're just an absolute, zealot for completionism, which I know those gamers exist, and hey, more power to you guys, because I don't have the patience for that. God bless you.
Yeah.
But unless you're that type of player, you're just not going to get that achievement on this game. It is a very good game. I like it a lot, but I'm going to do my one playthrough, and that's probably it. I very much look forward to any DLC or a sequel, but that would be my big thing for the next sequel.
I will go back in the years to come and play as a different character in a different house.
I might do it just to play it, because this character, I'm not doing any of the I'm doing it as a good character, and I'm not doing any of the unforgivable curses. So I may go back and make a Slytherin and do all the unforgivable curses and just be a general jerk.
Like I said, I finally got sorted into a house and did the whole fan club thing, and I am a Slytherin, and I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to do it this way. But to me, it's like Ghost of Tsushima. They're with the two different ways that how you can end the game. I want to do both. I want to do both ways. So it's definitely got a lot of replay value, and I think you could definitely add a lot of great DLC to it. They've already talked about the multiplayer and actually adding Quidditch, which I think
the easiest Quidditch, I think, is going to be difficult to make really good. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think it'll be difficult. I think the easiest thing to get into multiplayer is just drop a zone in there where you go in and you kind of zone into a shared space and have dueling matches, and you can have ranked dueling matches. Especially where you could tier, because there is the level score and the gear score, and I know a lot of people weren't a fan of that, and I understand why. But because you have that in there, and we have 40 levels, so you break it down into levels 1 through 5 fight each other, 6 through 10, 11 through 15, etc., etc. And that way you're not going in there and as a level 8 character getting shellacked by a level 32 character.
Right. I like that idea, but I also like being able to, form a squad and, take on dark wizards, and going into the dark wizard arenas and doing the waves like it's a zombie wave is fantastic.
Or kind of like Warhammer 40K Vermintide. Yeah, I gotcha.
Anyway, Chad, you were the last one to kind of get into the game. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I was the last one to get into the game because I was the last one to get a damn Series X. By God, I did it,
folks. And look, he might sound like he's coming off rather strong here, but you have to understand the quest.
Oh God,
that Chad went on to get this console, and it really was a quest. I mean, honestly, we could probably do a film about his quest to get a bloody Xbox. It was rather impressive. It was something to watch, and I really got to say I was proud of him that he saw it through and completed his quest, because there were moments there I wasn't sure he was.
Yeah. I mean, you shouldn't have to do a gamer's quest just to get a console, but you gotta appreciate the irony.
I even went so far as to pick this sucker up. Well, it's not showing up very well, but I got this. I got the Stellar Shift because it's Electric Jellyfish podcast color scheme, so it lends itself well to the room in here. But I am far from the biggest Harry Potter fan. I went and saw the original couple of films because my kid was into it. My kid was like 8, 9 years old whenever Sorcerer's Stone and the whole theatrical run started. So I was just kind of like a casual observer, and I watched it from a distance. I never got into any of the lore, so to speak. But then Marcus, you kind of lit the pilot, light. You were like, Gondor calls for aid. You were kind of that. It was that kind of thing. I'm like, maybe there's something to this, because I didn't think that you were the biggest Harry Potter.
You're starting to mix metaphors like Doc from Boondock Saints.
I know, sue me. I know.
No, and I'm not. I mean, I probably am more now than I used to be.
Right, exactly. I was like, if it can lure you in, then I could, why shouldn't I dip my toe into the water as well?
Well, part of my reason of liking it more is, my niece and nephew are reading the books now, and when they finish the book, they get to watch the movie, and they were also very excited that, my nephew has a cell phone now, so text messages, "You did get the game." I'm like, I got the game. Yes, you have multiple save spots and can play multiple characters on the same system and all that. So, the last time they were here, they both started, and it's fun to talk about getting sorted into houses. And so from that perspective, I am. And I've watched the movies multiple times. I've read all the books at least, at once, but it's not Lord of the Rings.
No. Well, see, in what I think is probably hands down the smartest thing they could have possibly done was not marry itself to the Harry Potter era.
Right.
The fact that it takes place, what,
like 100 years,
100 plus years before Harry Potter is even born. But it doesn't, the thing about Hogwarts as a, I don't know what you want to call it.
The location is a character.
Yes. But it doesn't feel like you're this far removed from the Harry Potter era, because it just kind of feels like it's its own little pocket universe. Like it feels like it could be taking place right now, other than the modes of transport is
right.
about the only thing that gives it away, that it's not set in modern, as far as modern day of Harry Potter can be set. It just feels like you're a part of Hogwarts. It just feels timeless. And that's one of the truly remarkable things about this thing, is that you really do get sucked in. You really feel like you're a part of this world.
And it doesn't, and it sticks with timeless themes too. It doesn't get really into political topic du jour,
right.
Which I know was a big thing surrounding the game, but it's
true.
Not actually part of the game.
Right.
And look, I get that. If you've got your reasons for not wanting to play the game, hey, live and let live. That's your call. I'm not gonna give you shit about it.
Stay la vie, as we said earlier.
Yeah, exactly. So, but my wife has been a huge Harry Potter fan. She grew up with the books. I didn't. I'm a little bit older than she is, and when she was in junior high and high school, I was already in the Navy. So, I was overseas, and I didn't even know what Harry Potter was until I got back to Hawaii from overseas, and I was like, well, I've kind of missed the boat on this. So I don't even think I saw a Harry Potter movie until Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah.
And I only went to see all that because I was like, oh, Gary Oldman's in it, and I'll pay to see anything Gary Oldman's in.
Right.
Good point.
And
good point.
It's phenomenal in that series. So
yeah.
Having a unique story that you get to play, that's what makes this game brilliant. As we've talked about, it does have some replay value, and you can definitely do more. And when Aaron and I were kind of working on the article and stuff, it was, you have to be a student to complete everything. You have to do all that part. You can't just go run off and do your quest and discover the big mystery about this ancient magic, and then fight the big baddies at the end or anything. So for that true student experience, this is how you get it. And I think that's going to bring a lot more people into the Harry Potter world, because you get to be a part of this without actually having to be attached to these other characters, from the universe.
I tell you, well, I will say this: one of my few critiques of the game is, the female fans or anybody who wanted to play as a female character was treated to a far better voice performance than the male, and I really don't want to throw the actor who voiced the male under the bus so much. They weren't terribly bad. They were fairly bland, however.
Yeah.
Whereas the female voice actress did a really phenomenal job, because I've got to sit here and listen to my wife playing over my shoulder, and so I've heard most of the playthrough, even though I've been trying not to, so I don't spoil the story for myself too much. But the female voice actress did a much better job, in my opinion, than the male voice actor of the lead. But I thought most of the other voice actors were pretty good. There wasn't any that really annoyed me. Although it was kind of sad. The one thing I missed from Hogwarts is, I don't know if you noticed this, but no moaning Myrtle, because she's not dead yet. She hasn't even been born yet.
Right. So Chad, does this game make you more of a Harry Potter fan?
It does. I mean, and if nothing else, it made me an even bigger Xbox One X fan, or Xbox Series X fan. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I can't say what it looks like on the PS5, because I got my copy for the Series X for the hardware, but I do want to say this. We one of our favorite conventions was a few weeks ago. And as usual, we do a panel every year. And, we're in that era where everybody's really having to walk on eggshells about what they say and now what they like, or it's like they get blacklisted. And while we talked about it on our last podcast as this game was coming out, some of the conversations I've had with people, like voice actors and everything, who can't even say that they like Harry Potter, they like Harry Potter or like this game, because of the politics surrounding it. It makes it sound like they're anti-trans or anti-Semitic, and all that. It's like you have to hide your fandom on this. That's the worst part about everything with this game coming out. Like, I get your perspective. I get if you disagree with J.K. Rowling, and I do personally. But it's like, can you still like the media, what was created, the story, but hate the person who created it? Why does the two have to be mutually exclusive?
I think my favorite example of that was earlier this year, when Alyssa Milano tweeted that she was getting rid of her Tesla because she thought Elon Musk was too much of a Nazi. So she bought a Volkswagen EV instead.
Right.
And people were like, "Oh boy, have I got a story for you, Alyssa."
Who wants to tell her? Who wants to tell her?
Well, I know. But I mean, it's like you're harping on people for playing a video game that wasn't even written by J.K. Rowling. It's just within the universe. And
Right.
I'll say it again, as a friend of the show, it's not hers anymore. It's the community's. We as the fans have kind of taken ownership of this. She doesn't have to create in this universe anymore, and you're not going to stop her from being rich, no matter what.
Well, and not only that, but there was an argument out there that people said, "Well, if you buy this game, she'll get royalties." She's already got her licensing fee. That was
Right.
already paid out of the game's budget, so she's already got that. So it's already been licensed out. So all you're doing is hurting. And then they said that you're not going to hurt the developers because they've already been paid. Well, no, that's not necessarily true. The game has to turn a profit.
Right.
And in order for these developers, and the video game industry, for those who don't know, is a very transient industry. It's a very rare thing for somebody to be at a company for a very long time as a base coder. If you're a game director, if you're like, say, James Olin, who was with BioWare for 15 years, or Fergus Urquhart, who is the head of one of my favorite studios, Obsidian, that's very different. Those are the exceptions in the video game industry. You get hired, you work on a project, and if there's not another project to work on, you get let go and you got to go find another job. So, for this game, in order to, get a sequel greenlit, it had to do very well. Now it has done very well, and obviously Warner Brothers is licking their chops ready to get another one out the door. But hopefully they don't rush them. I don't want that to happen. Let's let them do their job. You didn't rush the first one. Good things happened. There's a pattern there. Let it go.
If you're really that concerned and you don't want to give money to, you think you're going to give her money or people who support, transphobia and all that. Our gaming editor, Omri, actually his partner, Anna, found this, and we put it at the end of our article. But you can buy a digital copy of the game from this website, and they donate money to supporting trans rights. And the website is humblebundle.com. So buy from a place that's going to donate to the causes you support. But to hide your love of Harry, to hide your love of Harry Potter because you might not get work in the entertainment industry or whatever, that's ridiculous.
Or you're going to get doxxed for playing the game on Twitch. I mean, yeah. Come on, folks. Like, grow up.
We're fans of the game. We don't have to agree with her views. We don't.
And this is going to happen more and more, too. And it's just and it's going to be over. It's going to continue to happen, and it's going to happen over far more trivial things. Just because the internet has created a virtual mob. I mean, you're just you're a couple torches and pitchforks away from being outside Dr. Frankenstein's castle.
Right.
It's just online instead of the village.
Right.
So, it's we're going to continue to see this until people finally say, like, that's why I love Bill Burr, because you can't cancel Bill Burr, because they say, well, I don't agree with what Bill Burr says. We should all cancel Bill. Yeah, we should cancel Bill Burr. Bill Burr looks at him and goes, fuck you. It just keeps going. You can't cancel the man because he just refuses to be canceled. He refuses to kowtow to it.
As we wind this down, I'll be the first to admit that this is a serious contender for our game of the year. Okay, I mean, obviously it's the first big game that's been released, and we can't judge that.
And we've got some heavy hitters coming. We're finally going to have a year where we're going to be like, wow, there's like 5 or 6 games where we have to really seriously consider it.
Right.
Yeah, all the things that kept getting delayed are actually finally seeing the light of day.
Let's be honest about how we grade this game. I gave it a 9. I mean, I've loved every minute. I enjoyed playing it. I will play it again. That's my score. Brendan?
I'm probably a little tougher on it than you. But not much. I'd probably settle in at an 8.
Yeah. Chad, how would you come down on it with what you've played?
I'm right there with you, Marcus. It's a game that pulled me into a world that I really didn't expect to get pulled into and enjoy it as much as I am. And that's saying something.
Well, for those that don't want to play it because they feel like, okay, don't do it. But don't sit there and act like that the people who are playing it support J.K. Rowling. They don't know.
No.
Okay.
We just love the world that it's set in. That's like blaming Lucas for everything that you don't like about the current state of Star Wars on Disney+.
I'll give you an even better one. I still love the original Mulan, even though the live action remake was filmed across the street from a concentration camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, Disney actually thanked the government of the province that administers that concentration camp in the credits for Mulan. So, I mean, but we don't see the same mob going after Disney, do we?
Hey, it's
Not-
not like Walt
not
Disney
yet.
was accused of being anti-Semitic at times. So it's like, are we finally going to get around to canceling him and everything about Disney? No, you're not. It's like Chris Rock pointed out in his last stand-up.
Selective. I was just about to say selective outrage. Yep.
Yeah, give it a rest. So as far as works, I mean, not everybody on our staff is going to play this game, and we respect those choices. And they will not offer a grain. They will abstain from it, and that's fine. There's things that I'm just not going to get into. I'm like, I don't care. I don't want to, and you know. I had somebody ask me, are you going to force people? Like, I don't force anybody. I ask when it comes to assignments, can you do it? If you have an objection, I assign it to someone else. And,
there have been many things that Marcus has come to me with and says, hey, do you mind reviewing that? And I'm like, dude, I've got no interest in that. And he's like, all right, give it to somebody else.
Right.
There's never been any pushback from Marcus.
There are times that, as you know, the interim producer, I have to be a professional and I have to sit through a 3-hour Avatar movie because nobody else will. But again, I think
we all appreciate you for taking one for the team, Marcus.
Right. I do take one for the team on that one, but it was also made a lot easier.
Although I did watch the Resident Evil TV series for you, so I think we're square.
Yeah. I almost actually was like, well, it can't be that bad. It's got Lance Reddick, and I'm like, no, I got too many other things to watch.
I feel so bad for. I'm so grateful that John Wick 4 came out before he,
that was the last thing he did.
Like, oh my god,
it's like Bison for Raul Julia, man.
Which the only reason why I don't feel too bad for that is because he did it for his grandkids.
Yeah,
and hey, that's fantastic. If you did a movie solely because your grandkids wanted you to be in it and you did it while you have cancer, that turns out from being a bad story, because Street Fighter's a terrible movie, to being a baller story. And so that's awesome for Raul Julia. But I mean, come on, folks, go see Romero. He won a freaking Oscar for it. Okay, thank you.
Exactly. All right, the last thing we're going to touch on before we close this out is the Dungeons and Dragons movie, Honor Amongst Thieves. Now, I'm the only one that has seen it. I'm one of one in the minority who didn't really like the movie, but as much as I hated it the first time I saw it, I did go back and watch it just to make sure I wasn't having a bad day the first time I watched it. I still don't think it's as good as some people think it is. I will admit I applaud their effort for having tropes and things from D&D that if you have played, you will obviously recognize, and that's great.
Is it better than D&D 2000?
The one that came out in 2000?
Yeah.
Low bar. Again, low bar.
Very low bar. Because that movie was god-awful. First of all, it's nothing but a Star Wars ripoff. And
well, I know. I will say this one's better because I really did like the cast. My point about trying to make a D&D movie or make a movie based off a storyline, I admit that I want more of a serious storyline. I don't like hammy fantasy stories or anything like that unless you're Mel Brooks, Robin Hood Men in Tights, or The Broken Lizard Club, which has a movie coming out on Hulu in a couple of weeks. That's mocking, the Hunchback of Notre Dame and the medieval era and all that. And I will totally watch that because I get what they're doing. I just
with D&D, and if you're going to go hammy on it, and we talked about this before the show, I think you need to go all in on it and have it meta where you have a table full of actors playing a D&D game. We know John Manganiello, who plays Deathstroke, and Vin Diesel, who's all about family. We know they're both huge D&D nerds. Have them sitting around a table with a bunch of other, nerd actors like Simon Pegg and, John Favreau and
does play. She plays in Vin Diesel's game, and
right, and then have them, But I'm saying have them around the table playing the characters and intercutting between the table and the movie, and I think that would have been a really cool nod to the game. Also, something else that would have been a really cool nod to the game is if one of the characters had been killed off and 30 seconds later is replaced by another member in the party played by the exact same character in a different costume. like that would have been fit because that would have been perfect for D&D players. Because yeah, people in the audience might not have known what the fuck was going on, but all the D&D players would have been like, hell yes. And
Well,
then
see, I think John Francis Daley, who wrote this film, and plays D&D, was trying to make this movie special, especially for those who play, with like insider jokes. And like, I get that. However, you're also trying to make a movie for a wider audience. If your audience is more curious about D&D and starts playing it, great. But you didn't make a serious story. You basically remade Ocean's 11 as a fantasy movie. Okay. And maybe this was based off some campaign that you played or whatever. I didn't even, if I didn't already know the lore, I wouldn't have understood where they were, what was really going on. And one of the things I always talk about with what made the Lord of the Rings movies great, if you hadn't read the books, you knew they set the world up perfectly in what was going to happen through the intro and all the flashbacks at the beginning of Fellowship of the Ring. And it was just enough for anybody who didn't know what was going on to understand the world that they were going to get into and the adventure they were going to go on. So the question I pose is it better to play these stories as a campaign with your friends than make a movie? Or can you actually make a good movie? Or if you're going to make something for the screen, is it better as a series, like a limited series or 10 episodes? I think this story personally would have been better as like a 6-episode limited series.
well, I will say this: you are going to be able to answer that question definitively in about 2 years because Joe Manganiello has been tapped to lead a streaming series with Wizards of the Coast. We don't have a streaming network yet, but it's going to be based on the Dragonlance novels.
Yes.
So you're going to have a serious fantasy setting in D&D run by a guy who intimately and famously knows D&D in and out.
Right.
So we're going to be able to answer that. However, that being said, no matter how good that one is or how good the D&D movie is or isn't, depending on your point of view, as somebody who's playing in a D&D campaign right now, as a matter of fact, I just played last night. I have a level 4 Rune Knight fighter. The games will never be especially if you have a good DM. Right. A good DM is fantastic. Like the one I have right now, he's really great. He's built his entire world. The amount of NPCs and backstory and world building he puts into the game, and the extra lore that he drops into Roll20 and on Discord, and that we can read during the week to give us a richer, fuller understanding of this world, so that he doesn't have to explain it in game because we can just play the game while we're in game. The amount of work and effort he puts into it, it really makes it a joy to play. And just the crazy shit that happens in game. Like, for example, right now in game, the event that's going on is called the Full Fae, and it's like the full moon here, except instead of everybody kind of going a little crazy, magic goes nuts, and magic casters have really weird things happen to them. And because of that, our barbarian got hit with about 3 friendly fire spells last night.
Right.
And I made the joke that she's soaking up more friendly fire than the U.S. Army.
Wow, really? Really?
Like, whenever a friendly fire incident happens, it's usually the Army that's taking it. And I feel bad for the soldiers because, God, they go through a lot.
I can't complain too much. I was in the artillery, so if we mess up, did we really mess up?
Yeah, when the enemy's far away, the artillery
by accident.
But yeah, what's that Murphy's law? When the enemy's far away, the artillery will be short, and when the enemy's danger close, the artillery will be long. So yeah.
I'm sorry. Let me take my earplugs out. Repeat that.
So anyway. But yeah, hey, but Navy's essentially artillery too, so we're right there with you. So anyway, we're just floating artillery.
Well, I agree with you about building rich lore and storytelling, and I think that's what makes playing it better and easier to translate. Now, I will say this two things about the series. Just because who's behind it, you're already better than Rings of Power, and you haven't even filmed your first shot yet.
Yeah, thank God it's not 2 rejects from Bad Reboot.
Right. And also, if you put together a writing team like from The Witcher, that doesn't understand the lore, makes fun of it, and doesn't listen to the guy who does know, you've already failed, and fuck you.
Yeah, and like,
We'll call you
look,
out.
and speaking of Rings of Power, what a week for Amazon Studios. They start off with having a horse die on set, and PETA coming after them online, saying, we speak for all animals. Stop using horses on set. It's like, hey, PETA, when you stop, euthanizing about 20,000 dogs a year, you can speak for animals. Until then, shut up.
Right.
And then, and I might be large, it might be 20,000 in the last 4 years, whatever, thousands of dogs per year, put it that way. And then then almost a couple days later, not even a couple days later, the set catches fire. Like, not a little fire, like they said it was only burning for an hour, but if you read further into the article, the fire department was there for 5 hours putting out the fire. So this was not just a little fire. And then the next day after that, the Hollywood Reporter comes out and does this incredible expose hit piece on how dysfunctional Amazon is and why all the budgets are so crazy expensive, because they have to pay people extra because nobody wants to work with them because the studios are just a shambles. And the fact that less than 3 out of 10 people that started the Rings of Power finished watching the entire season.
Yeah.
Yikes, what a week.
So maybe best case scenario, you get your house in order and you replace Rings of Power with a good D&D series, and you can have Wheel of Time and a D. I'm just saying. All right. We're got plenty to talk about the next time. We'll be back in a couple of weeks after the season finale of The Mandalorian and the season finale of Picard Season 3, which I will just say, no spoilers, this entire season has felt more like the Next Generation series than anything. And it's even brought me to tears a few times.
And as far as Amazon goes, hashtag let Brad Wright make more Stargate.
Right. But we'll also be talking about the differences with studios losing money versus making money, how to run a successful. We haven't given you our full thoughts on The Last of Us series on HBO. We'll be writing an article about that next month in our magazine, and how it might just be the perfect template for a video game adaptation. But that's part of the larger conversation here at That Nerd Show, with how to successfully run a streaming network versus how to completely ruin everything and constantly lose money. So, we'll see how season 3
$1 billion
and do what?
$12 billion. Lucas, Disney Plus.
Yeah, I feel like the only way to save the end of to really go all out in the final episode of season 3 is you're going to have Luke and every other Force ghost that you've loved show up all at the same time. But anyway, neither here or there.
How are we 8 episodes in and Giancarlo Esposito hasn't made an appearance?
Well,
Or 6 episodes, 6 out of 8, excuse me.
Like I said, a lot going on. We'll discuss it in a couple of weeks. And real quick, for the Electric Jellyfish podcast, what do fans have to look forward to? What are you guys talking about?
Well, we're we're getting really Fortnite centric.
Okay.
So yeah, there'll be something coming very soon. Nothing I can really.
Okay, can't spoil anything.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, can't go into too much detail right now.
All right, fair enough. I want to say one final word about Lance Reddick. It was emotional in John Wick to see, he died after we saw the screening. But Beth and Omri and I were playing Destiny 2 earlier this week, and to hear his voice in the game, it just kind of hit home even a little bit more. But anyway. All right, everybody.
Well, I do feel we'd be remiss. We did lose 2 legends today, actually, as of the time of recording this, that affect us as Star Wars and George Lucas and Steven Spielberg fans. We lost the DP of Jaws, Bill Butler. He passed away today. And the production designer of Star Wars and Raiders, Norman Reynolds, both passed away today. Or at least it was announced.
I haven't even got that yet.
Right.
Wow.
And on a more local front, we lost Angie Mayhew.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Peter.
We lost Peter's wife a few days ago.
For those who aren't following along, going who, because you're younger, Peter Mayhew was Chewbacca. His wife, he passed away recently. His wife, Angie, who was just a delightful, charming woman, and who was ever so gracious in sharing her husband with the fans. She recently passed away. So
yeah.
All right, everybody. Stay nerdy. Try to enjoy what's out there. I know there's some pretty bad stuff and things to complain about, but hopefully it will get better. And as usual, if it's terrible, we're going to call it out and basically, yeah, we're going to tell you the truth.
Look at it this way. If it's really that bad, just crack a beer and make fun of it.
That's what we do.
As I was telling a guy last night, if you're really that upset with Star Trek, you know what you can do? You can go back and watch the good series. So, and I actually started watching TNG yet again. Never disappoints.
I was actually watching DS9 the other night. In the Pale Moonlight, still a great episode.
There you go. All right, everybody. Time to say goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Take care, everybody.